There is no right time to sell the business. The time to sell it is when it fits what the owner is looking to do. Also, when the business is at a peak, or it's got to a point where the owner or the team have probably got it from a scale perspective as to where they can take it. And by exiting at that point, they've got the next chapter. They can still be a part of that as well. It doesn't have to be 100% sale. It can also be a part sale to be a part of a bigger group or another company and part of that company. There's a mentor of mine that in asking that question, when is the right time? Well, now is the right time to sell, because things can change in your business. There's a gentleman I know that didn't take that advice, and he lost one of his main contracts pretty much 3 months after sort of listening to that. And therefore, most of its turnover had halved pretty much overnight. No disrespect to what they did, it's just another business bought out that business and didn't need their service anymore. So when is the right time to sell? Now. From formation, think about exit planning. It should be a part of your toolbox from the very early stages. And not a lot of business owners do. I suppose it's like thinking about having a will, a power of attorney and things of that nature. Business owners spend their lives in businesses, growing them and building them and making them to the success that they are. It's only sort of, I suppose, later on in life you start to think that, we call them the baby boomers in the investor world, that are looking to sell because of age. They've got to a point where that's that trigger point for them to sell their business up, but they don't think about it early enough. I mean, it should have really been at the formation of your business. From a business perspective, there's a point within a business where it's had years of marketing and development and employment and expansion. One of its ways a lot of companies don't tend to look at is acquisition, is acquiring another business to strengthen that business. And they don't tend to look at it until businesses get to a sort of a, let's say, 30 million, 50 million bracketry, because it's sort of a way in which they can acquire something because of their positioning, really. So the higher up the business grows, the more demand there is for that business. So if you're a 5, 10, 15, as you start scaling, the demand starts increasing. And especially if it's in an area which is in demand, that value can increase accordingly. So from your business size, acquiring another business to be able to achieve that is a way in which you can get that scalability moving forward, so that you become 2 or 3 or 4 businesses that are able to start to have that multiple increase, the EBITDA increases, scalability as well, and depending where you need to be, but you can doors start to open the bigger you become as a business. And also then interest to acquire your business becomes greater as well. Yes. The right time to sell a business is now, and definitely if it's growing. Because if it's growing, you're going to get more interest and there's going to be more urgency, and you're going to have better value to be added to it and so forth. So if you're taking a business to market that is clearly growing, has been growing for the last 3 years, and forecasted this business is going to continue doing it, then yes, this is the right time to sell your business. What we tend to see is that business owners that have got a very profitable business, they're doing very well, they're growing year on year, and they're exploring the possibilities of an exit strategy in the next 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 years, and they're doing the right thing, they're thinking about it, and it's moving forward. What they also need to think about is, when is the right time to sell your business? Now is the right time to sell your business. But then they come back to me and say, well, what I'm going to receive for the sale now, I would have earned that back in 4 or 5 years out of the profit this business has been able to generate. What you've always got to be mindful of is that industry changes, sector changes, things happen, companies buy other companies, you lose contracts, and that risk is there within the business. So why not exit now? Enables you then to do what it is you want to do. Maybe you buy another business, maybe you just have enough to retire on, or whatever it is you're wanting to do as a business owner. But it's just options that business owners don't sort of look towards. Market conditions affect the sale timing, because if we look back over what's happened over the past few years, then you have wars that can impact this unbeknown. Another element is technology, as we now know. The way it's growing, AI, for example, you can have a software company that has spent a lot of money in getting a certain software to do problem solve or whatever it is it's doing. And then what you can find then is, just after launch, within a very short period of time, there's an AI model out there that can do exactly what it does for a lot less money. So there's a competition in the markets like that can affect how the sector is viewed. Burnout is a big thing. I know over the past sort of 5 years, we've seen a lot more of the fallout of that as to how impactful that is, predominantly in partnerships more than solo owners. The relationships have been strained for one reason or another. We're dealing with a gentleman at the moment who is, the both of them got a successful business, but clearly the relationship has just fallen out. So we're just dealing with that one at the moment to sort of derive the valuation. And what was offered to the exiting partner was a lot less than what really the business is worth. And then there's been sort of problems getting the sort of financials and the year end and management information and so forth. But that's in the throes of going down the road now. But the exiting partner is clearly suffering from burnout, mental health concerns. He's actually using his father-in-law to sort of correspond with the solicitor, with ourselves and so forth. So we're acting from the exiting partner's perspective to assist them to exit the business in the right way. The relationship has been very toxic. The other owner has been sending emails and text messages at early hours of the morning and all this sort of tomfoolery to really create more pressure and stress in the situation, knowing full well that the other gentleman is looking to exit. And so burnout in that example is quite profound for that gentleman, actually, having to use other people around him to sort of help him navigate this journey. And also, if the owner is feeling burnt out, put that analogy to one side, but if the owner is sort of feeling burnt out, when it's starting that question as to why they are feeling that at the early stage, because really part of exiting the business or selling the business is so they're not actually integral to it. They're actually working on the business holistically, being more of a board level or advisory level, as opposed to actually the day-to-day grind of operations and processes and so forth. So really, if they're starting to feel burnout, then this is the ideal time to start thinking, okay, I now need to start thinking about how I exit this business and what plans I now need to do to get myself in that position so that if the level of this burnout is going to increase over a period of time, I've got a mechanism to deal with that if that is the case. So, I'd highly recommend that if you're feeling that it's becoming overwhelming for you at the moment and you don't find a way and means of doing it, because just by going down that way of working on your exit plan, that will automatically start to lift you out of that day-to-day running of that business and position you accordingly. And that in its own right will help reduce that burnout level. The process of sale is all about getting prepared for that exit, and really what is putting a toe in the market is an element of that, trying to understand where your business is positioned within that market. And getting that ready can take time. It might be that you don't need to do that. It might be that you have a customer or a supplier that you have a relationship with, and the conversation can be had to say, well, I'm looking to sell the business. Is there any interest in respect of that? We do quite a bit of that type of work with customers that are wanting to sell their business, and it's actually maybe a competitor we can generate interest from. So there's multiple ways that your business could actually sell, but also testing the market is a way in which you can generate that as well. So you go to market and see what the interest is in respect of it. You don't necessarily need to sell, but you can then start to get the business more sale ready from the learnings that you've just gone through in respect of what is their appetite for this particular business, and therefore then how do I strengthen the business so that when I do sell in 6, 12, 18 months, then I've positioned the business in the best way I possibly can position the business to be able to then get 1, interested buyers, 2, at the right price for the business, and 3, the process is as seamless as it possibly can be.